Hi everyone, this video is going to be about personal statements. This was another Instagram recommendation. Someone wanted to know what did I include in my UCAS personal statement to get into the university course of my choice, how did I structure it, how did I stand out, all of these things, and I thought it's a really good question. The only thing was, it had been so long since I wrote this personal statement that I genuinely could not find it. It must have been deleted when my secondary school email was deactivated. So I had to try and figure out how to log into my UCAS application, try and figure out my passwords, finally got in, finally had access to my application so that I could make this video. So guys, I've been through a lot. I've been going through a lot to get this video out. But I'm glad that I managed to get it, and hopefully make sure that I'm catering to whoever is watching this so that you know how you can stand out. So without further ado, okay, so the first thing I would say to do is know what you are studying. And I know some of you are probably watching this so you mean to say I clicked on your YouTube video just for you to tell me to know what you're studying. The reason why I'm telling you to know what you're studying is because it's very common for students to get to the point where they're writing their personal statements and realize that they don't actually know what specific course they are applying to at different universities. So take me, for example, I was an A-level student at the time. I was doing economics, psychology and food science and nutrition. I know before you say it's a very rare subject to do, but you know, I love food science and nutrition, so whatever. But those are my three options. I also did an EPQ. Now I wanted to do economics as a university course, but I didn't just want to do economics because I really had a big interest in business. So I was really struggling to know what is it that I'm actually applying to. Am I applying to just economics? Am I applying to business economics? And then some universities kind of called it economics and management, some courses called it industrial economics, some courses called different things. So I really had to do some digging and some research into what it is that I actually wanted to study and how I would make my personal statement link to what it is I actually want to study. So this could apply to you in many different ways. Obviously, if you're just going to study, for example, you're interested in physics and you're just studying physics, this will be very self-explanatory for you. But there are some students who may not necessarily know what their course is called per se, so I would definitely say do some digging, do some research, because sometimes there may be a course that you are interested in but it's named something different to what you're familiar with. The way that I like to kind of think of personal statements is it is literally story time. That's what it is story time. And I remember when I was watching a lot of videos about personal statements, I was kind of under the impression that it was going to be really difficult, really tedious, and that I wasn't going to enjoy the journey because it was just going to be me writing essays on myself over and over and over and over again. And if I'm being completely honest, I actually really enjoyed the personal statement process. I think the only thing was, obviously, yes, I did have to correct my work over and over again, but that was only to make it as best as possible. But the actual process of writing my personal statement I actually enjoyed, and I think that's because I love storytelling, and that's what a personal statement really is. It is forming an idea at the beginning and then making sure that everything from then on links until your end point. So when it came to starting my personal statement, there were a few things that I was actually told not to do. One of them was to not say that ever since I was born or ever since I was young or because in most cases that's probably not true. If I was to say as an economics student, ever since I was born in my mother's womb, I just love profit maximization, and I don't know why that Jamaican accent just came out of nowhere, but do you get what I mean? It's just so unrealistic. But they do advise that when it comes to starting your personal statement, do start with something that is unique, whether that is a quote, whether that is an anecdote, which is a story, something that will captivate the reader. The way that I kind of started off my personal statement was actually referring back to the moment when I realized I had an interest in business and economics. I initially realized that I really liked business when I used to watch The Apprentice, and that was actually one of my opening statements. I didn't leave it at that because I'd be very crazy to do that. Don't just state oh, I like The Apprentice, or oh, I like this show, or oh, I like this book. You actually have to make it link to your subject. But then from that point, I then was able to link the TV show to an actual individual that was on the TV show. So for example, I had read a book that was actually written by someone from that program. And because in the book it spoke about a lot of business pointers, it spoke about a lot of facts, I actually decided to incorporate something that I had previously read from that book in my personal statement and link it back to economics. It's a story, everything must link. Okay, from there I was like, okay, this is what sparked my interest, but this is what I did as a result, and this is what I would definitely recommend you do. If you make any initial points, make sure you back it up with evidence. Make sure you show that you're actually active and eager to learn more about this subject. I would say it is so important that you express at some point in your personal statement that you have read up on this subject outside of school. Obviously everyone can say, yeah, I've learned about this at sixth form, I've learned about this at college, yeah, I've done this, that, the other, but they want to know, do you actually read up on this outside of school, or are you just doing it by force? Do you actually have a passion for this? Like, do you actually in your own time look up things? And even if you don't have a passion for whatever you're studying, you still need to express that you have actually looked up things outside of school. So my next paragraph was actually dedicated to me talking about, I learned about this, I learned about that, I explored this. So I found a few concepts outside of the syllabus and I kind of incorporated it. So whatever subject it is that you are studying, make sure that you look up a few gems outside of your syllabus and link it to some real life application. The next part of my personal statement was mainly to do with work experience. Now, I must say, I think out of my whole personal statement, I'd say that work experience can show a lot about a person. I wouldn't necessarily say it's the most important because I'm aware that not every sixth form student might have work experience, but it does say a lot about how much you actually do outside of school. And in itself, you can actually talk about skills you have developed by juggling other things. Multitasking, I think that's the correct word, multitasking. I actually had worked in business, so I was able to do that. But if, for example, you haven't actually had the opportunity to experience that environment, it's actually time to start digging. You have to start thinking about those voluntary work things that you did when you were younger, whether that is being a prefect, whether that is doing some voluntary work, whether that was helping some kids out or something, and you have to try and pluck some skills out of there. You need to try and find something so that you can demonstrate that you have actually exercised skills outside of school. I actually came across a problem where I felt like I had too much extracurricular activities to talk about, so I decided to try and narrow it down so that I wasn't taking up too many words. So what I ended up doing was trying to link my subjects, my other subjects, to extracurricular activities that I had done. Now, I don't know if this is a advised way, but this is kind of how I approached my personal statement. Part of a conference that I had went to, or I was invited to, I can't remember, this was ages ago, but I had taken part in that, and then one of the speakers at the conference also had a journal or a book, so I had read that and I was able to refer to that. Everything linked, I'm telling you, everything in this personal statement linked. And then from that, one of the points they mentioned in the book was inequality, and then from inequality I was able to talk about some of the voluntary work that I had done to reduce inequality. I would say if you have a lot of work experience which is paid, that is great, but I would also recommend you have some voluntary work because it also shows your personality. It shows you're an altruistic and caring person and you want to get that across. So I spoke about some of the voluntary work that I had done to do with food, and obviously that led on to my other subject, which was food science and nutrition. Now, the great thing about the subjects that I did was that they all somehow linked to one another. So I was able to kind of interlink all of my subjects together to still end up talking about economics, psychology, behavioral economics, and there was also, like, you know, the food industry when it comes to economics, which I was able able to link with previous projects that I'd done to do like EPQs and stuff. So obviously it sounds like a mouthful, and some of you may be sitting here thinking like, I have not done any of that. Try and find things that you have done, and I mean like even the smallest of things that you don't even feel like is significant, you would have found a skill from that, even if it's, you know, Duke of Edinburgh, NCS, you know, one of these things that you had previously done. Try and find some skills out of this, because it can actually really help develop your personal statement. If after everything you're still like, I don't know if this is a good personal statement, there are a few bits of advice that I'd give you, and some things that I did that really helped me. First of all, I asked myself, if I was looking at this application, would I accept this person? And I know that's a difficult question to ask, because like a lot of the time people will be like, yes, I would, but really be critical and really be honest with yourself. Would I accept someone with this personal statement? If you're unable to do that, ask someone else who you feel like is qualified in the area that you're trying to apply to, whether that is a teacher at your school, whether that is someone already in the profession that is relatively close to you. But make sure you're trying to get different people to look at your personal statement, so that you are not just going based off of what you think is good. Make sure that it is grammatically correct. Make sure you're not using slang words or statements that only young people would know. Try to use generalizable points that are not specific to something where you have to have watched a program to know what it means, or you have to have read a book to know what it means. Try to make sure that it is written in plain, simple English, so anyone reading it would be able to understand. It should be as clear as day, to the point where you could give a maths teacher a different subject and they should be able to understand what your personal statement means. Remember, this is story time. This is a time for you to really showcase what it is you have learned, what it is you have experienced, and making sure that the beginning links all the way through until the end. So I hope that these tips really helped you. Make sure to like, comment and subscribe. Make sure to leave any comments down below if there are any other video recommendations or any things that you really liked from this video. Make sure you leave it down below, and yeah, until next time.